All right, hello. Can everybody hear me? Chat, can you hear me? Come in, come in. Love you too, 3 bar. All right, let's get into it. So, Fall 2024 PR reveal stream. For those unaware of the dates for that, that is beginning of September to the end of November. So, all of September, October, and November. And we had a few big events take place in this time period. I think the big three, or even four, depending on how you look at it, were Daddy's Den 15, Don't Park on the Grass, TCT 30, it's the return of it, and the circuit finals were all this season. So let's get on with it. But first, a special announcement. In collaboration with CWA, EWA, and Palouse, we are going to debut the 2024 Greater Eastern Washington PR. And that'll be happening this Saturday at 7 p.m., hosted by Big Daddy Nom Nom himself, Calvin. The committee had a few members here and there, but out of the ones that were actively voting in the end and gave their input in the final stage of it, we had Whip, me, Laka, Airy, Bladesy, You're Too Late, Big Daddy Nom Nom himself, Fish, and Hydro. So, tune into that stream as well. There's definitely going to be some big moves, and I'll be making the graphics for that one as well, and also we'll just be updating the graphic template for that. Alright. And then to start us off, we have the honorable mentions, and for this season, we have 2 of them. I will also mention that we still have the Sleeping Giant role. That basically just means somebody who didn't meet attendance but was clearly going to be in the PR range in some capacity. And we gave it last time to Slayer because he had like 3 brackets, and I think Slayer only had 1 or 2 maybe this time. It was very little. But we'll get into it later. Alright, so first honorable mention. And I'll just rip the band-aid off. We have Zark over here. Zark has been a long time, pretty solid player. Has been pretty close to missing it, to making the mark before. But this time he was able to close it out a lot closer. Actually able to hit all 4 tournaments for a season. That boy has been MIA all the time. But had a pretty solid top 20 win rate. In fact, he only ever really lost to anybody ranked within the top 20 on bracket. Second at a small sweet spot, which is I believe like the smallest or second smallest bracket of the season. Pretty good placement at Whirlpool, and then 9th at TCT, which as you can imagine with 48 members and invading Palouse, it was pretty stacked. And then 9th at Whirlpool. Wins on the Lavi, Gex, Flash Freeze, Gucci, King Richard twice, Slaying twice, and Fat Uncle Ben, with his worst loss being to King Richard, and then after that being all players that have either made PR in the past or have made PR, like recently-ish. That being Flash Freeze, Gex, Bouncing Fish, Lavi, Poyo, Cake, and Anomaly. Alright. So, this is still a pretty good spread. If you tuned into the past streams, some of these have been pretty, have had this has been pretty comparable to some of the wins that people have had who have made PR and maybe even like above number 10 or 9 in the past. But it was a pretty stacked season. So just shout outs to Zark, and he's our first honorable mention of the 2. The other one, now this is where things start getting a little silly, is Echo X-Man, or Echo Man. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but he is also somebody who was recently an invader. There's kind of been a lot of invaders this year that have moved around here. He's coming out of Sunnyside this time, and had a really solid performance at Whirlpool, where he pretty much dominated pools and then made a run all the way to 4th in the final bracket. And then made a 9th at Bonanza and Sunnyside, 2 of the smaller brackets. Bonanza being a bit bigger, Sunnyside definitely being kind of the low end of that. And then 13th at Tumble, which isn't too bad considering just how stacked that was. And he has notable wins in region on Lavi, King Richard, Karo, Monkey, Gucci, and Slain. And then out of region was Tet and Azza Gigafo. Although for Tet at least it was his first bracket in a while, but he otherwise is still always going to be like a pretty dangerous name to come up in any of the brackets in this area. And if you also haven't tuned in before, the red names usually just means out of region. If it's the color that is currently on screen, that usually means it's going to be like either historically out of region PR or someone who is currently out of region PR. And if you look at that little notable losses, you'll see a silly little guy down there. We have Noel and their little tag over here, Estrogen Burger for the season. King Richard, Gucci, Flash Freeze, Lavi, Poyo Cake, and besides Noel and King Richard, everybody else has either made PR in the past or made PR since. So still not a bad run, just not really the case to kind of be ranked above the people that are to come. So let's get on with it. At number 10 on the fall PR, we have somebody who's returning for a bit, a handsome young lad, that being ISD. Made a really good run and showing out at the Pepsi Circuit Finals, getting 5th out of 16. And again, that's an invitational, so it's not like a 16-person bracket. It's a 16-person bracket where everybody qualified, or the majority of the players qualified via one means or another. There were very few who were invited by any means. There's only really 2. Technically 3 with Break 2K, but he was like a runner-up twice. 3rd at TCT, which was definitely his best showing, best placement overall, and also just that tournament. He got a lot of great wins that launched him up to this point. 9th at Bonanza, which is a bit of a low, and then 97th at Daddy's Den. It's a regional, it'll happen here and there. But the big wins here are Dr. Kakenstein, Poyo Poyo, Lavi, Bouncing Fish, Foggy 90, which I only really put up there because this is him after beating Lavi and King Richard in the same run. And then, of course, on King Richard. His worst loss, I would kind of say it's probably Pekwek. It's a player I've heard vaguely about. I don't think they're ranked anywhere. But after that, it's Horace, who is the GOAT, don't mind you. Ja, Ronnie, or Sinsend, Dr. Kakenstein, Anomaly, Alsa, who's like NorCal PR and Peace. Overall, though, with the tournaments that he did go to, he absolutely made like an insane run. And then for the light red names, like I mentioned earlier, the light red usually means like out of region, but not necessarily like PR'd in that region. So Foggy 90 is from Palouse, and he isn't even ranked out there, so he's in like the light red one. Alsoda is obviously NorCal PR, and that's why his name is in a darker one. But alright, moving on to number 9. This is where things start to get a little crazier, even still. But again, another returning PR name, we have Flash Freeze, Shane, don't sleep on the GOAT. Had a really good Pepsi Circuit and the Whirlpool right before it, where he got 3rd place at the Whirlpool and 5th overall at the Pepsi Circuit Finals. And then still did decently well outside of the region, so 65th at Daddy's Den isn't too bad, and 97th at Dome Park is about, I think, 1 or 2 rounds from making it out of pool, so still really good. I believe 2 rounds from it. But something that's kind of funny to notice about this, that Johnny pointed out, is that maybe Flash Freeze is just really well trained in the Bayo matchup, because he did not lose to Bayo this season, out of region or not. And then, while he didn't fight Ja or 3-bar in region this season, he did fight an out of region Pikachu, and of course took it there. I believe both the Bayo and Pikachu sets were upsets at Don't Park. But other than that, in region he had a win on Poyo, Gex, 2 on Echo, 2 on Zark, 1 on Barrio, so Fog, 2 on King Richard, and 1 on Fat Uncle Ben. And then there's a silly little notable losses in that corner there. So Noel popping up again, but not just them, but Loath, a player who was in Wenatchee for a bit, is someone who I really wish stuck around for a lot longer. They went to they kind of first debuted at like a 7-person Epoch, and I thought they did pretty well. But then at the next tournament they went to, they went like I think like 4-2, beating Flash Freeze and I forget who else, but another notable name here or there. So yeah, I'm kind of sad because they did in fact move back to Texas, sounds like, but that's someone that otherwise you would be looking out for around here. Other than that, though, Zark and above, as you can see, besides those 2 losses, Flash Freeze only really lost to PR or above. Zark being like the worst loss besides those 2, and him being the honorable mention in this case. Light Kuma is a PR as a newly PR player in Palouse, and Koru I believe is from Utah. But then the rest of the wins, losses to Lavi, Fish, 1 to Poyo, and 3 to Peace are all generally typical for any PR player around here, even if you do end up making it on there. But all right, now moving on to number 8, and we have our baby girl, our Boo Bear, the sweetheart of the world, and that's Gex coming out back at number 8. This guy at this point is going to be on every PR that he makes attendance for. He actually had a decently weak kind of start to this season, but as you can see from the overall results, nowhere near a bad season. And so that's a 3rd out of Whirlpool, 4th at Bonanza, 2nd at Sweet Spot. I believe that was 2nd to Lavi, so still not a bad placement at all. And then 65th at Dome Park. Now, mind you, that is 344 people. That is indeed a major, and he was 1 round from making it out of pools, as well as another player that may or may not be on here as well. Getting a win on Half a Teaspoon, 3 on Poyo, which is extremely impressive considering what is to come. 1 on Jordan, who is not a region, Roy, Lavi, Zark, Karo, Monkey twice, King Richard 3 times, Fat Uncle Ben, and Kid twice. With his worst loss really being a toss-up between Bladesy and King Richard. Bladesy just in terms of the season performance, King Richard because, you know, he's fucking King Richard. Other than that, though, not really any bad losses. Zark, Nundi, who, yeah, he's never really been ranked, but he has never made attendance to be ranked properly. Flash Freeze, Lobby twice, Jaw, Sinsen, Poyo, Cake. But it really is just, I would say that having a losing record to some of the unranked players can definitely be a bit rough, and that's kind of what brought him down here. However, I think that if Gex is playing on top of his game every day that he shows up to a tournament, he's going to be like top 5 easy every single time. But all right, moving on to number 7. And we have... let's just say that we've got a bit of a twin situation going on here, because next we have Bouncing Fish. For a good chunk of the season, actually kind of off the Joker, I would say that maybe Cloud could have also been up here as a secondary, but that was a bit less use. Fish obviously is one of those players that is always going to be a PR staple as long as he's got his head in the game and as long as he just makes attendance pretty much. 1 on Kakenstein, 2 on Jaw, 1 on Flash Freeze, 1 on Azza Gigafo. Akko is I believe maybe like a year or 2 ago, might have been ranked NorCal PR, so it was kind of hard to kind of put him on here. However, it was still definitely an upset that he made over at Dome Park, and then a win on Zark, Horus, and Swafog. And then with notable losses to, of course, the GOAT, Horus. And then other than that, just PR players pretty much. So that level of consistency is pretty insane. Fish in general has just been like a really long time player in the region, and it's good to see him travel a bit more. And since like when I first joined, he only really stayed in Wenatchee. Now these days you can definitely catch him going to any real big event that can draw his attention, and maybe even TCTs coming from now on, which would be really nice. But yeah, there's not really a lot to say. He has an even record overall to the top 20, and of course like a pretty dominant lead overall. And I will say that from like Gex to Fish to the next player, it really was kind of a toss-up, and they really could have been in any order, to be honest. But all right. Next up, we've got Lavi. And Lavi, of course, is a boy who plays. As you can see, he went kind of mostly Ganon, but really the season overall could have just had a big question mark there. Lavi has insane peaks, insane highs, but man, does this guy go extremely silly. And I think that a big push for him this season especially was just an absolute dominant performance out of region, because that is when he absolutely locks the fuck in. So he has 2 wins on Cake this season, went on Saint, Cinnamon, Hydro, Gex twice, Piff, Fish, Flash Freeze, Shining Shoes, Echo Man, and the list goes on. Oh, and then Cake asked if he did not beat Lavi's season. No, so that's the other side of Leviathan, is while he does play a ton, I can't exactly fit all his losses here. And for losses at least, we go for the worst losses first. So that is the unranked out of region players of Foggy90, who was Lavi's round 1, mind you, and Penjib, who I think is pretty good, but I think for all intents and purposes he isn't a ranked player within his region. Other than that, lost to Kid, Fatical Ben, Horus, Barrio, Monkey twice, AG Karo in the Donkey Kong Ditto, King Richard twice, and of course Zark. And yeah, not a whole lot to say about this guy. He kind of is just the king of consistency, but also consistently trolling. But he absolutely, I think that if he were to just like really lock in and try, he could be even higher. But he does this to us, and so the rankings end up looking like this, where he's always gonna be at the bottom of the players that troll a little less, we'll say, as we'll get into it. But all right. Next up, as kind of the midway point of the PR, and mind you, yes, that means that fucking Lavi is in the bottom half of the PR. That is kind of just how stacked the season is, and at this point, we're kind of almost hitting like a CWA PR singularity with the players that are maybe just gonna like fill out the top 10 because they're all like 10 staples. But if you were paying attention at all, you would probably assume that, yeah, it's Sinsen for the season. So Ronnie actually didn't make attendance this season. After Daddy's Den, he kind of stopped really going too much. I'm not entirely sure why, but he is kind of the player that is the most obvious to have made PR if he was able to kind of close it out. 33rd at Daddy's Den means that he was one round away from top cut, and I believe even one game. I think that's a set that he lost to Vi. So I believe, and I think that was game 3 in a best of 3. So he was pretty close to making it to the top cut of Daddy's Den, which would have been absolutely insane and would have been the best placement of anybody who attended that tournament from CWA. Obviously wins on Lavi, Gex, ISD, Barrio, Fatical Ben, as a Gigafo, Swing, and Tencent, the NorCal Friendlies Iwa Goat. With his worst loss being to Gucci, and then after that, just other players that we're about to see in the next section of the video. Obviously, so that's going to be Ja, Kakenstein, Phi, Peace, and Major. Literally just 6 losses overall. That's all that really fit there. But anyway, shout out to Ronnie. Hope we see you again. Number 5, we have the guy who kind of just started making PR one day. I think it was literally the first season that I was active. The PR that came out from that was, I think, his first season ranked. But that is, of course, going to be Ja, or Hazard Chris, if you will. Outright winning one of the epochs, 3rd at Bonanza, 4th at another epoch, and then 49th at DD15. And mind you, that could have really been higher because he got, it was game 3 against Artemis, who is an out-of-region PR Sephiroth, and he really could have, and if he had been able to close that out, then I think he would have potentially made a top 32 from that, because I believe Artemis did. But anyway, wins on Poyo Poyo, Sinsen, Piff, which is a really good out-of-region PR win, Gex, Lobby 3 times, Bouncing Fish twice, ISD, King Richard, Fatical Ben twice, and Beladzy. Worst loss being the Kid. Shame on you. But other than that, only really lost to the top cut of players here. Out of region PR players, it's like Kuma9 and Cinnamon. In region PR or PR level is Bouncing Fish twice, Slayer twice, which I believe might have been his only bracket, 1 of 2 maybe, Anomaly, and of course Peace, who is, yeah, those last 2, we'll get to them in a bit. But yeah, this, I would say here is like probably one of the most consistent players we've got around here. I think it was in the summer, maybe the last time that he really had a few lows that kind of brought him down a bit. I think at this point, it's pretty clear that if you're trying to make PR in this region, you're going to need to learn the Pikachu matchup, especially if you're on the west side. But regardless of where you're at, you definitely got to look out for this guy. And I'm just glad that we have somebody pushing like another top tier around here, or really just a matchup that could be easy to miss. Although, you know, we kind of have enough Pikachus as is anyway. Anyway, moving on. So, top 4 is the kind of the territory we're getting to. And we're going to start it off with a bang because the number 4 person has a win on the best player for the past, I would say, I think 3 years in a row now. So that's Poyo Poyo the GOAT. Piloting Hero as his main with Kirby as his secondary, and it's kind of funny because I always discount it or think of it as more of a troll pick, but it really is a secondary with some of the wins that's been able to get him. So he got 2nd at the Pepsi circuit this year. TCT Tumble, he managed to get 4th place, and again that was a pretty big one with Palouse invading with a good decent amount of people coming in. 2nd at Whirlpool and 5th at Bonanza. And like I mentioned, I win on Peace, but also wins on Kakenstein 3 times. Saint, who he is now like 5-0 lifetime. Piff, 2 on Gex, 4 on Lobby. Uh, in fact, I don't think he lost to Lavi once this season. 1 on Fish, Flash Freeze, and then 4 on Zark, which I'm kind of surprised that they fought 4 times, but I guess they did. And then notable losses, his worst loss is to number 10 on the PR, and that's kind of the level of consistency he's starting to get at. I'm really glad that he's kind of pushing it a bit. He just kind of, I think, showed up one day, started going, and then like people kind of started noticing him. He made attendance, and he made PR pretty quickly, and I think this might even be his lowest placement, but it really is because only of one player that is on this screen right now that we'll get to. But yeah, really solid season overall, and then pretty much as long as if you count other PR players as no bad losses, then this is where we get into the territory where somebody just genuinely does not have a bad loss. But all right, to move into the top 3, we've got Kakenstein. And another invader, another guy who made a splash, another guy who is not leaving anytime soon, and one who likes to travel quite a bit. Because as you can see on there, there's a stock trade that he got first out of 37, but that is not the only Palouse event he has won, mind you. He also won, I think it was Burger Stock, but I don't think that one counted for PR because he was the only one that went there. But yeah, this is kind of one of our new like top 3, top 4 PR staples. 3 wins on Poyo. I think if you've noticed from the last slide, they actually have a completely even record, so it really was just up to like almost a coin toss between these two. 1 on Saint, 1 on Pi, who's like a really big hidden boss from Palouse. Sinsend, Spire, who's Palouse PR. Lobby 3 times. Gex twice. Fish, Flash Freeze 3 times, and ISD, which is also going to be his worst loss. Just like, I believe, Poyo Poyo, there really was no bad loss. Worst loss being to number 10 on the PR. And then from there, it jumps all the way up to, like, I believe Fish was number 6 or 7. And then Lavi, Poyo, Vi, Peace, Anomaly, and then Cattail and Seesaw, which are, of course, out-of-region PR players. But also won an Epoch, got 33rd at DD 15. Again, I believe another set. I believe he also went up against Vi in winners that time, and I believe that was also another game 3 that was pretty close. And then 3rd at the circuit finals is also, really good to close it out and just demonstrate that he's definitely going to be here to stay. And what's kind of funny is that I think with this, it's pretty clear. I think every single player that made top 8 at the Pepsi circuit finals made PR this season, and that happened like kind of at the start of it, or at least close to the start. So that's just kind of funny how that worked out. But all right, moving on to number 2 in the region. And if you have kind of noticed what a lot of these players have in common, is that these players don't seem to have any or many at all wins on 2 players in the region. One of them is an invader who came in from, I believe, Texas, who is new, but definitely making a big splash around here. And then the other one has been here for a very long time and is defending for 3 years. But we'll start with number 2, and that's Anomaly, invading from Texas with an absolute goddamn splash. Getting first at TCT 30, first at Bonanza 4, and first at Sunnyside SmackDown number 5, with a 33rd at Daddy's Den 15. One set again for making it out to the top cut, which happened to a lot of the players on here. 4 wins on Peace, by far the most. 2 wins on Kakenstein, a win on Poyo, Jaw, 2 on Gex and Lavi, 1 on Like Kuma 9, who showed up to TCT, 2 on ASD, 1 on Charminator, and 1 on Chrismo, who also showed up to TCT, with his only notable losses in region being to Peace 4 times, OPZ, and Owa the Kakenstein. I'm fucking stupid. To Owa the King K. Rule. Good lord. But yeah, no, this is absolutely insane. We'll get into the next slide about justification about how this all went. But there is absolutely going to be a huge contention for who's going to be number 1 next season for more than a number of reasons. But Anomaly is absolutely going to be one of the players that is just right in there. And I'm just excited to see exactly how this works out with everybody else. I think that a lot of people are kind of in agreement that people just need to really, really learn the Piranha Plant matchup. Maybe ask Where Up for some games. I don't know. But yeah, so Anomaly, really great player. Again, I don't think I mentioned this yet, but doing this all with solo plant is actually fucking insane. One of the few regions where some of the players at least have a good amount of like good Piranha plant matchup from maybe leftover from Europe, but yeah. But anyway, going into number one for the season, who could it be? Yeah, it's Peace. And this time actually mostly going Wario, or at least I'm going to put Wario up there. The main reasons for that being that this is the character he was going primarily against Anomaly, and to get the wins that he got out of region that were pretty solid. Went on Nano Ash, who is Western Washington PR, as far as I remember. 4 wins on Anomaly, so that shows that their record was 4-4 for the season. Went on Artemis, 3 on Kekenstein, 7 on Puyo Puyo, Sinsen, 4 Eyes, Ja, 3 on Lavi, 4 on Gex. Worst loss to Sophia, who's an out of region, like I think Southern Washington, Steve. Probably the worst loss here for sure. But I also think that that was a really good tournament for Sophia, so not really sure how that worked out. Puyo Puyo, 4 on Anomaly, and then after that, just wins losses to like out of region players like Terra, Monty, and Lemon. Yay, Puyo got a dub. You know, Puyo, it would have been 2 dubs if you didn't top deck Kamikaze from the top ropes from the Angel Plat. No, but seriously though. Anyway, Peace got first at the circuit, as you can imagine, second at TCT to Anomaly, and then another 33rd at Daddy's N15, which is even funnier with the thing right next to it, which is that he got 25th at Don't Park, which was the pretty much almost double the size tournament and was an actual major. So yeah, just truly an insane run at Don't Park, I think, is what really eked him out of Anomaly, just because they really had the fully even set record. And as you can imagine, Peace just had just a lot more weak wins across the board. But with that in mind, this is the 2024 Fall PR. We had 2 honorable mentions, Sleeping Giant with Sinsen, and then the rest of the list we just saw just now. And then just a note for my Holly Jolly friends. The winter PRs, we decided on this last winter because we had a lot of like people who just got 3 brackets and could make it to a 4th. But for the winter PR for this for CWA, it's now going to have an attendance requirement of 3 instead of 4. The rest of the year / every other season is going to be 4 tournaments. But the winter PR will just have 3, so that way people don't really have to like travel too much, since travel gets a little dubious when things get icy and snowy and foggy. That means that there's a good chance we might see some hidden bosses finally make the either a PR debut or a PR re-debut, but we'll just have to see how that lines up. And then, of course, do not forget that we have the GWA PR debuting this Saturday at 7 p.m. I gotta get to work on those fucking graphics, but trust me, if I can pull them off, they're gonna be awesome. Trust me. But anyway, I have been your host, Dr. Pepsi, and you better tune in. Go follow Cal right now. Go to that link and go follow him right now, or just look him up. Just make sure you're there for that, because I'm excited for the GY PR, because it was a little frustrating kind of towards the end of it, but if we can maybe get what we were hoping to get out of it, then it can be pretty big for not just like not just for CWA, not for just for EWA or Palouse, but maybe even like the PNW, and help us out with, you know, just maybe getting a little bit more respect throughout the subregions of the PNW as a whole. But anyway, that is all for tonight. Shout outs to everybody who made PR. We'll figure out a graphic at some point. After Whip's done with the fall one, or with the summer PR, I'm just gonna like repost the like message I'm about to drop, just so that way they're gonna be like in order. Oh, Puyo Puyo asked when CWA full year PR, so that's actually really funny, because I actually didn't know that you knew about that. But yeah, I have like a full year ranking page that's going on, and me and Johnny are gonna go through, and I'm not gonna like try and pretend like it's anything official. It's mostly just kind of like start up discussions, and I don't know, maybe a shit talk between you guys. but I have a full year's like CWA PR page already up, and I'm just gonna rank the top 25. I'm calling it Pepsi rank, just so that way it's like PR in quotes, you know. But that'll just be also to highlight some of the hidden bosses that might not even make it to, like, let's say the like the winter PR, because maybe like even if the attendance is lower, travel still is rough for them. Honestly, for those, the names that I'm kind of just gonna shout out are kind of coming out of Mr. Wenatchee, the little area over there. In particular, Swafog and Slayer, who are decently active throughout the season or throughout the year, but don't have like any particular season where they have a ton of attendance. The requirement for the full year is 8 tournaments, so I'm really trying to catch it in bosses that are still relatively relevant to like statistics and stuff. And we'll just say that we'll see where those guys end up, if at all. Remember that there's a lot of fucking hidden bosses around here, so I don't want to hear if your favorite player is not in top 25. It is a full year ranking, and this is why it's going to be nothing official, even if I'm doing it. It's just going to be me and Johnny kind of dicking around with the stats and stuff, because full year rankings are fucking brutal if you did not begin out the gate doing your best. But anyway, I've been your host, and you all have a great day. Or I guess a night. I don't know. It's fucking late. See ya.